at it, that was one of the options.
So we got the bid went out for the Legion?
And that used to be the road.
Going. You're doing the resolution tonight.
Sarah Wells, they run into each other. All right. But it was so overgrown
Like
that I
around the
didn't go
phone.
into it.
Something like that. That was the bid I heard.
But,
We just put a bulldozer in there and make it a road.
Well, yeah.
Get the trucks out.
Yeah.
So don't have to make it, you know?
you know what? That's not funny.
No, that's what I said, make a road.
I guess
Well, here comes.
I'm going home.
I'll take a look and I'll talk to somebody.
Okay.
I'm going home, Mr. Noel, to see if I should have around you.
Just so everybody knows, we're live on YouTube right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so you know, everything's live on YouTube as this moment.
Do it.
How about TikTok?
Haven't seen you in a while.
TikTok too?
Good.
Okay.
So, that would be wonderful. You know, if you remember, and I would definitely go up there.
You better not booby trap my chair tonight.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
I did.
We're gonna talk
Your
about
last
that
one, you're going down, all the way down.
You know, I've started to
If you read your agenda.
Oh, reading it now. That's how I figured it out. You know, there's not much time for this stuff.
No, that's why I send it to you a little earlier in the day, just in case. I know you don't have time. Yeah.
Good stuff in here.
Wait a minute, I have to take away. She's moving up.
No.
Good seeing you.
When you go to YouTube, put in Goshen, New York Town Board. There you guys are. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
There's a little mistake. You're supposed to get cold and drink.
Not saying hello and paper.
Phil, I'm sorry. Can you hit the switch on the cord there, the extension cord? That little red switch? Thanks.
Now, make sure it works now.
Yeah, if Sean or somebody from the audience.
Sit down and shut up.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started and lead us to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would some of the board members make a motion? We open the meeting? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Under old business, the first item is we've been working for several weeks, if not months, on several projects. And I've asked Sean to come. We're making progress, by the way. But the first one is discuss current plans for repairing the town of Goshen Highway Department garage. Sean, you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Mr. Supervisor, if it's okay, can we come back to that one last,
Fine.
because the others are quick items.
Okay, go for it, sure. Okay.
So on, I'm going to start with Hamiltonian Park. On Hamiltonian Park, the town received approval November 22nd from the Department of Health. Your operator, JCO, went out and completed the purchase of equipment, and the first equipment, which was the injection pumps, arrived yesterday. I spoke to Dominic Hillard, your operator, yesterday afternoon. Going to start installing that probably next week. He's also working on filling the Arcadia Hills water storage tank, so he's kind of juggling different projects right now. But he's going to start doing that. The installation at Ham Park. When that's complete, he's going to call me. I will inspect it, and I will complete the certification that the health department requires before putting it in service.
You have a question. Once it's online, how long will it be before we see?
There will be some time. When you introduce a
Right.
chemical like this into the system, you don't just put the chemical at the full
Right.
dosage. You have to ramp it up so you don't have any problems with precipitates or anything like that.
Right.
It may be a couple months before you really start seeing, a noticeable impact.
Right. Mary, we finished all the flushing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. So with that flushing behind us, we're starting with rather clean water for a while. Okay, thank you.
Arcadia Hills water storage tank. At the last meeting, I told you I hope to be filling the tank. At this meeting, we are just a couple days behind that. We were waiting on the supplier for the mixing system to say that the mixing system in front of the tank was ready to go. And Dominic has sent an email, or you have a copy of an email exchange between Dominic and I indicating that he's going to start filling that tank on Monday.
Right.
The tank gets filled a little bit, about 20 inches of water. That water gets super chlorinated with sodium hypochlorite. Tank gets filled up at the top. And then the contractor will take laboratory samples. If those are clean, and there's no bacteria in the tank, we notify the health department. They come out, they do a site inspection. And then when that site inspection is completed, then you put the tank online.
Good. And by the way, for the folks in the room, that's a $700,000 purchase, this tank. And it goes back several weeks or months to design it, go out for competitive bids, build it. Now we're filling it with water. Yay.
Heritage Estates. I've given you a little bit more detail in my memo that I distributed earlier this evening. We met with developer Mumford in person on November 30th. There's generally at this point 3 major items outstanding. Easements, punch list, and the water supply wells. On the easements, there were a number of easements that the developer did not obtain or set up and file prior to selling the lot. There's also a couple of easements where the easements were filed, but the infrastructure was installed outside of it. So that at this point caused the developer have to go back to less than a dozen, maybe 10 or so homeowners to try to obtain easements. We had a follow-up telephone conference with the developer today. He has scheduled a conference call or video conference, I can't recall which, with these residents to explain the situation to them. And I believe Rick's office has offered to talk to those residents if they have any questions to the town. So the next step would be to get sign-offs on those easement agreements. And then that would conclude all the easement issues that you have.
Okay.
On the punch list, there's still those 4 remaining items that we've spoken about for several months now. They're very minor, but they're still outstanding and they need to be completed. Mr. Mumford said today that he has a contractor lined up. He hopes that the weather cooperates, he will be able to complete those next week. And the water supply wells, when we met on the 30th, Steve Esposito, who's Mr. Mumford's local consultant, indicated that the plans have been submitted to the health department for well number 6. Steve provided my office with copies of those plans this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to review those yet, but what I will do is I will review those with JCO and see if they have any comments. The health department, I contacted the health department to see when they would anticipate getting comments back or an approval. They indicated probably the end of this month or early January.
What about the village? They've been communicated with.
One of the items that's been on the punch list now for over a year was that the developer obtained a letter that everything affects village infrastructure, primarily the sewer connection, was satisfactory. We haven't seen that letter. We've been asking for it.
I was just thinking in terms of the flushing well 6 going to the village.
Now that I have, I'm sorry. Now that I have the plans, I have something that I can review with the
Okay.
village engineer.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So Sean, before we leave that one, we had that meeting today. We had a conference call with all the interested parties, and he was going to talk to the people in Heritage that he needs easements from.
Yes.
So on and so forth. So did we set up another time for the next meeting?
No, we didn't. We can do that, I would say at least 2 weeks out. That gives him a chance hopefully to complete those punch list items in the field, cross those off the list. And we'll be right before the holidays. So if you'd like, I can reach out to them tomorrow and try to set something up.
Well, yeah, I know we set today's meeting up, and I just don't want to let this thing go. You know, so if you talk to these people tonight, he's going to get whether they're going to do it or not. So we'll at least have an indication whether we're alive in the double or it's not going to happen for a long time. You know,
I would say if everybody's available 2 weeks, it's probably the time to do it again because of the punch list. And also, we had spoken to him in 2 consecutive weeks,
Right.
last week and this week, and there was little progress he was able to move forward with. So I think 2 weeks is probably a good
I
time.
would think so, because based on today's call, it's almost a waste of time. Because all the things we talked about last week, there was nothing that we crossed off our list. It was all, well, I'm going to do this and I'll be doing that. So I just don't want to let it go. You talk and set it up.
Will do. We can do that.
Yeah, sure, George.
You got it.
Sean, I'm looking at the memo that you sent, I guess, to us on November 30th. The first question I had was this attorney Pryor, Mr. Mumford asked Rick and Kelly's office to prepare this easement. This was for lot 23. Have you received that?
We actually had previously prepared, Kelly had previously prepared that easement and sent it to Pryor. And so we made note of that today in a telephone call. And if they don't have it, we'll send it again, but it has already been actually prepared by Kelly.
Mhm. Okay. Second one was the infamous Laurel, well, I guess it's 54 Laurel, right? That's the one that we had the
Yes.
question and stuff. And pleasantly surprised, at least from what I think I heard from you, Sean, and I also heard it from Steve Esposito, that now that gentleman Mateos has signed on. So that's just a matter of that being done now, because he was balking at that for a while, but now I guess he's signed on and it's going to be done.
Yes, and that was part of the reason the punch list, the other punch list items were still outstanding. Mr. Mumford said he wanted to kind of consolidate everything and send out the contractor one time to do all the work rather than have repeat. So hopefully now that'll all get finished next week.
Yeah. And then finally there, the performance guarantee, there's talk there about switching the bonds to, I guess, 3 different types of bonds. And Rick is going to be advising on this, but I guess my question or my comment is I guess that's premature now.
Well,
Those other
it's
stuff
not-
is done?
It's not so much premature, is it? But it's not anything that's on the critical path. It's not holding up anything. He did just recently send those forms that he would like for our review. We haven't yet reviewed those. I think we got them yesterday. But it's not something that's due now. It's something after everything else is done. He then is going to request to go ahead and substitute these new bonds for the present ones. And provided they're in proper form, there's no problem. The town is fully protected. Kelly and I will look at the language with respect to the legal protections. Sean will look at the language with respect to the amounts that are involved and whether they're appropriate. So we will do that, and it's on the list. We will be doing it, but it's nothing that is imminent. That will occur months from now.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Sean, what's next?
The highway garage.
Okay. Go ahead.
I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. And feel free to interrupt with any questions. So in early November, you authorized awarding a contract for temporary shoring. The amount of the contract was approximately $88,000. And thinking was.
And that was on an emergency basis.
Yes, that
so we
was.
didn't have to go out for competitive bids.
That's
Okay.
correct, yes. The thinking was to have the building shored and stabilized prior to any potential snow accumulation on the roof that would add additional load to the structure. The problem with the structure is steel is surrounded by masonry. We really cannot get a good evaluation on the steel. And frankly, the entire building hasn't been modeled, so we don't know what structural impact or what reduced capacity, structurally speaking, resulted from the building being impacted by the vehicle. We wanted to get it shored, stabilized as quickly as possible, but definitely before the snow. Tim, as you requested, we asked him for proposals for the permanent repair, and we received that proposal. But we also asked them for the cost of, they've identified as a shelter, but it was really a means to allow them to work in a closure, to allow them to work during the winter. That would also allow the highway department to access the garage for storage. Imperative to the highway department that they have those vehicles stored indoors in the winter and heated so they could utilize them. And we met this morning with highway superintendent and we discussed the feasibility of that relative to the cost and if there were any other options. One option that Broderick brought up, which I had not considered previously, I think is a very good idea, is to look into whether we could obtain some fabric and steel structures similar. I'm sure you've seen them around for salt storage and other uses. I know Hamptonburg has them, TAM has them on their site. What that would allow you to do is that would allow you to eliminate the $70,000 in the shelter enclosure that TAM proposed. You could store these vehicles in those structures, and then when the garage repair is complete, you could utilize those structures for salt storage. So it's not a sunk cost, it's not a lost cost, if you will. You're killing two birds with one stone, essentially. Now, this was just something that was brought up today. Like I said, it's a good idea, but I don't know if it's feasible relative to time and cost and everything else. So,
Roderick, can you tell us what you found out today?
You just have to turn it on broad when you.
Oh, and, right?
When?
Gee, I knew you were above average.
Okay, one thing I found out, there are lead times involved with these things. I talked to the superintendent from Hamptonburg. Theirs is approximately a 70-foot width. And he wasn't sure it was 100 or 110 feet deep. It was designed to handle 5,000 tons of coal. They did that out a few years ago. They had a really good deal. It was $77,000 installed. And so they're very happy with theirs. I have a morning was help from the contact Clearspan. They're kind of a major manufacturer. In fact, I'm told there's only one manufacturer, but they kind of like lawnmowers. So here was one for Clearspan. Price was roughly $70,000. Oops, and material. $1,000 This one they charged tax in. This was about $75,000 uninstalled, and that also did not include blocks. And Hamptonburg, that 77. Hamptonburg put the blocks in and put the asphalt in. The problem with it, Sean, is this really has to go out to bid. Way above our threshold.
What about delivery? Are these things available?
This one they quoted was 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. The other thing is that we have a $50,000 approved grant from the state of New York for working on the salt shed. So if that, let's say that's going to be 100,000, well, we got half the money already, provided we can get the check. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. But and then you can use it for, because today we're spending for the board $750 a month to TAM Enterprises to store salt for us. So this is a good thing if we can do that. But I don't know in terms of speeding up the process of getting work done. If this is going to.
Roger, I have one question on that. Those buildings, Those buildings, they require a little bit of site work, right? Is it gonna be on blacktop? Where it presently is? I mean, do we know where we would put it, or?
We have to do some planning and take some shape and try to move it around, to see what our best
Mhm.
bet is, because we have a lot of, we have all, there's many cars that go to the Humane Society, garbage truck, police use the area, so we kind of have to have that planned out. We need to get to the fuel pumps,
Right,
so it logistically kind of have to.
and you have the loading dock there already too, so you don't wanna move it far from where your dock is, right, where you load the trucks?
No, and I don't want it far from the existing, too far from the existing
Right.
salt shed, because that would be used to hold the salt sand mix.
Mhm.
And then the new one would be just pure salt.
Mhm.
So since you have to move that around and mix it, it needs to be in close proximity.
Right.
How long would it, let's say it takes 3 weeks to get it. How long would it take to put this thing up before you can put your trucks in?
I heard that obviously I have no experience, but I hear once you have your foundation set, materials come probably about a week. Yeah, process.
I mean, the reason, maybe Sean, you can talk about why your concerns, we got to get it done, and then the concerns about trying to do, so, cement work in cold weather, et cetera, these kind of things.
So whenever a building is damaged, difficult under the best circumstances to determine the extent of that damage and what it means to the building in terms of its structural impact. In this particular instance, it's even more difficult because of the age of the building. It was built in 66 or 67. We have plans for the design of the building. We're not sure that the building was actually constructed that way, all connections between the steel members. And then even further complicating it is the fact that the steel members that were damaged are actually within a masonry wall. So we can't see those fully. We can't get a good feel for those. We talked today about possibly removing some of the masonry, but frankly, I don't know if that masonry is supporting the steel, and if you remove some of it, maybe you would incur some additional damage. So I think I've been pretty consistent in my descriptions to you that we need to shore the building. And we particularly need to shore the building before that building could be subject to snow load. Think about how maybe, you get a 12 inches of snow and then you get a rainstorm after it. That building, based on the size, it could incur an enormous load coming down on that. I just don't know if that damaged portion is strong enough to support that. It could certainly be. It's been damaged for a while. We've been lucky. We haven't had significant snow. But I cannot tell you, based on what we've seen so far, that there would not be a problem with that building.
Have we seen any changes in the structure at all since the accident happened?
Nothing noteworthy, but I will say this, I relayed the story this morning to Doug. I was involved in one kind of building where it was a laboratory building that was made out of masonry, and there was a crack inside the laboratory. And the operator who was there every day said, "Oh no, the crack hasn't moved. I'm here every day." We put a tape measure on it that stayed there, and we measured it, and it was actually moving. Over a couple of weeks, it moved an eighth of an inch, and it could be such that they're subtle and you don't realize
Right.
it. So, no, we haven't noticed anything, but we haven't necessarily measured properly to look for it.
Right.
Can I make a comment about that?
Sure, go for it.
A few meetings ago, we talked about a supplemental claim because what the insurance company paid us didn't seem like it covered the damages. And I'm a little concerned because they had to have an appraiser come out and look at this. So what did they do? They sent an appraiser out, looked at it, cut us a check, and kind of walked away from this claim. And apparently there's a lot more damage than was either visible or understood. So I'm not sure if it was the appraiser that didn't look at this well, because all the damage should have really been considered. And at that particular point, they do the estimate and they reduce your deductible and so on and so forth. And then if it's agreeable, they cut a check. Well, these guys cut a check almost immediately. And I know the check probably won't cover half of what the damages. So at what point, where is the insurance company in this? Anybody know what they're doing? You do, good, George.
Yeah,
Let us-
I know to a certain extent.
Oh.
I spoke to one of the claims people, Morris up at Goshen, Sterling. And because that was a concern of mine too, that, we wanted to keep this open. So as far as I know now, a couple of things have happened. They sent down a forensic engineer, Roger was there at that time, issued a report. I forwarded that report. I think you got a copy, Roger, but I forwarded a copy to you just this week. And, basically some of the substance of that is there's damage to the building, but there's more damage to the building than just what the truck hit. In other words, there's damage that is to that structure prior to the truck hitting it. So he's basically telling the insurance company that, we're going to pay, but you may look at some issues here where there was damage before that, and that would not be your responsibility. I mean, that was basically what he was reporting back. In so many words, the insurance company itself hasn't commented on it at all. The only thing I can say from Ruth Morris is this is still an open claim. There still is a possibility, I'll say, that we're going to be paid more after everything's said and done, whatever we spend as far as for the permanent fix, as well as the shoring and what was deducted from what we have sent to us, what was it, $70,000 or something like that was sent to
Can
us
I just
already.
say something about the forensic engineer?
Yeah.
Became part of this analysis was done by Google Earth. So he looked at the garage from Google Earth and he said that some of the columns that we pushed in prior. The problem is I tried to recreate the same thing, and when you are in Google Earth to get down to street view, you're at the street, you're not in the parking lot. I felt it was a little stretch.
Not much in the text.
Right.
That's not much of it. And in addition to that, if there was prior damage, is it wear and tear? Or is it from another accident that wasn't reported to the insurance company? These guys are really playing fast and loose. And I think we really need to get to the bottom. I'm not sure what kind of information they gave you, Sean, but it doesn't sound like they did a forensic estimate of really all the damages, what was caused by the truck and what was not by the truck and just wear and tear. We need to know that, and they should be able to tell us that.
I have the information that George provided, the report, and frankly, George and Broderick, I don't know what you thought. I didn't think it was a very comprehensive report. It was more just observations from his visit in October.
Right. So this is big money.
In addition to the money to fix it, so forth, the big issue to us tonight is if we're going to try to do this right now, okay, so that we alleviate this safety problem, okay, it's going to create a problem for Broderick to get his trucks in and out. We're going to have to pay that $70,000 or whatever it is to
That closure is twofold.
Okay.
One would be the structure that would hold the doors, that would allow us to gain entrance.
right.
The other thing is it was going to be out far enough so that, and it would be within the heat zone of the
Building,
garage,
yes.
so that CAM could work up over the door lintels to remove block and so forth, and do their work.
Well, the insurance company should also have some liability as far as what we need to do in order to
Make
get
it
this
fixed.
repaired.
Right.
So there's a lot more to it than just looking at the building and saying on Google Earth, well.
But the issue, if I can, not the money. The issue is the safety of the people working out there and using it this winter, okay? Versus saying, well, let's just do it in the spring, because they'll probably still working on it in the spring. Okay? And so Sean, as a professional engineer, is kind of concerned about saying, put it off. And yet Broderick's very concerned about what do I do with my trucks? In particular, I start snow plowing in the first part of January or something, and I don't have my big building up. So.
Right.
But
w-
hand
Yeah,
in
we
hand,
have
to keep that in mind. You have to
Right.
operate. Everybody knows that.
But hand in hand, we need to advise the insurance company of exactly what we think should be
Oh,
done to
sure.
secure it, because if we do it without,
Right.
they're gonna say, you didn't get our authorization, we
No,
would have done
I
something
agree with
else.
you. I
Yeah.
agree with you.
Okay.
But Broderick's here tonight is because he's got to operate, and it could be a real problem.
Yeah.
It could be a real problem because he can't do it without that hoop thing that he wants to build.
No, I understand.
Yeah. So I guess the question I would have is, do we authorize Broderick to go out and try to find one of these materials and build the hoop thing so that he can, or do we spend the $70,000 on this temporary shelter, which you're going to rip right and throw it away?
Well, I still think that you need the temporary shelter, regardless if he has the hoop building, because the idea is to keep the heat on the concrete, because concrete will freeze after you apply it, and that doesn't work in a building. So if it freezes, it's not going to hold. So the reason for that structure is to keep the heat on the concrete while they're working.
Well, but if you had the hoop structure,
Yeah,
you wouldn't do the job until the spring.
correct.
Oh,
So you
okay.
would,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
but you would have to throw away that hoop, I mean, the structure that you're going to be building.
You would throw away the structure, but you still have to secure the 4 16-foot doors.
Right, yes.
So I'm just saying there's some cost. It wouldn't be the same cost as building the external structure,
Mhm.
but it's cost.
Do you think a hoop building could be purchased, installed, built in a timely process? I mean, you said it's a 4-week.
Well, see,
Yeah.
again, we talk about 4 weeks, but we
Yeah.
need it designed
Yeah,
because that's not an emergency
right.
and won't be an emergency. So that has to go through the proper
Right.
bidding cycle.
Actually, I want to weigh in on that. This is associated to the emergency repairs that are being done. And you need this because the repairs need to be done now. And so that's all encompassed within the emergency. And you would not have to go through the typical bidding process. You could, the same way that the rest of this work was considered to be emergency and therefore not subject to public bidding. The associated work, I mean, you're not doing this simply as some separate project that you're doing. This is all related to the problem with the garage and the need to protect the equipment. So that would be under the same emergency exception to the public bidding laws.
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
What is it?
Well, anyway, so for the board, I agree. I think we need to go out and find out and see what the availability of this hoop material is and and design it, and whatnot, and proceed on with that before we do anything with that building. But it's probably going to be the end of January at the easiest, the soonest we're going to have that thing up and running. But I don't know what, if we have a real rough January, what do you do from an operating standpoint?
Safe rough as much as you can, right, for that, especially the last day, right? Just make it safer so.
Well, originally,
discussed that.
what I planned was that, because when there was a redesign of the shoring, it made the doors, even though they were reduced because of the concrete piers, it made them open. There was not a support
Right.
in the middle of them. So I envisioned at that time that we would put like plywood doors on the garage. And that would prevent TAM from continuing on with their final repairs, but it would still have access to the heated garage for the trucks.
Now, where Frank has his maintenance bays, you store trucks and things in there today?
Yes, but usually there's things in there for
Being
repair.
fixed?
Yes. That's only 2 days.
No, I know, it's just too bad, yeah.
There's 2 bays at the end of the garage that I understand are utilized by the police department. Those you can completely not utilize at all.
They have, you can go only so deep.
Okay, they're not deep enough.
Because there's a structure inside that structure.
Okay.
Well, you know, the fact is that I think you two fellows need to get back together again, find out really the feasibility of buying these hoops and things and getting on with the plan, and we'll just do it as soon as we can. And if we get a snow or something, I don't know, we'll have to blow the snow off the roof or do whatever we got to do to protect ourselves.
Just one other thing, maybe it's a small idea, but maybe we could just block that area off so nobody's in there. You know, I know you got to get the trucks in and out in emergency for snowstorms, but
Right.
just avoid, you know, any people in that area.
Well,
Well,
that's, I wanted to warn that off with orange fencing around there.
Yeah.
To make sure no one errantly, we don't have people hanging out.
Yeah,
right,
Like,
right.
would want to make sure that no one was in that area or ventured in, and we would only use it for bringing trucks in and out.
There's one other thing that's crossed my mind. You know, we're sitting here every day, we know a week in advance, but we're gonna get a snow and whatnot. I have no idea with that new building and all that's going on over at Tams, if 2 days before the snow comes, if we could run them over there and use that just 2 or 3 days until the snow melts off the roof again, and then, I don't know. So we,
And I had thought about maybe we could contact the county. They have any space at all in an emergency situation. You said, I mean, I don't know, there might be other options we should at least look out, think outside the box as to how we can help you out.
I always
You know.
thought the county, we can ask. Well,
Yeah, okay, but
well,
just an idea. Yeah,
but as a board now, okay,
How long it would take to put this temporary structure up? You put that Tim is proposing. Just as long as the hoop buildings or?
no, you're talking about the external.
Yeah, that's
structure
the
outside
temporary one.
I don't, what do you think, Rick, and being around your group,
I
without
don't know.
talking to Scott Reed, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't,
No,
Scott,
you didn't give me an estimate of time to install it.
it's probably, I mean, and materials pending too, because who knows what you're gonna be able to get and when you're gonna be able to get it. You know, this thing is just thrown up there, so, I mean, it could be a couple of weeks just to build that. That's pretty
Yeah,
big.
That's what I'm saying.
Conceivably with that.
Yeah.
No, that's where I'm going with it.
More than 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It takes just as much with temporary as the sand and, like, sand and salt buildings. When that's, same time frame, so that's gonna be permanent. The temporary one is going to be
right,
money spent, but and money gone real quick too.
yeah,
But
yeah,
remember, if we do the hoop, we still gotta get the electrical in there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know, I'm just talking about
yeah.
a time frame.
I'm not even sure what, see, we don't, that was never a concern for us, because we have a heated garage, you have block heaters. So I would imagine that some trucks don't have them, and they need them.
how about we do this?
Nice, a couple of extension cords.
How about we do this? You work diligently to find out
Yeah.
the availability of these hoop buildings and whatever, and the delivery kind of time. And maybe we're just gonna have to call a meeting later this month. With some, and to give you authorization to go out, whatever the money is, whatever, to put the thing up and build it. And, you know, so we have more information to go by.
Would it be possible for you to authorize Broderick to proceed at a, you know, a limited cost? Let's just say $100,000. If you can find something, then you don't need to have a special. However, if you'd like to have a special meeting.
No, I don't, I'm not wanting a special,
amount.
$100,000 fine.
What do you think? Lou?
Yeah, no, I think that's appropriate. You know, you're talking about something
You don't have a specific price for it.
Right.
It's an emergency basis, so it calls for emergency measures. I think to go ahead and approve the kinds of measures that Roderick was talking about and Sean was talking about, up to a limit of $100,000, you can authorize that this evening.
Okay, good. If somebody could make a motion. Go ahead.
So I think that you would have to make a motion, type 2 action under seeker. Repair and placement, and this is part of that repair and placement. So you move that it's seeker, the seeker is done, and then you can move to approve it up to 100,000.
I'll make that motion.
No, on the seeker.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We're going to have a roll call vote. Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug? Aye.
Aye.
And Rick?
Aye.
Okay, got that. Now, Rick, how do we voice out the one cost part of it?
I think a motion would be in order to authorize the necessary infrastructure to proceed with the protection of the trucks and the building in accordance with the recommendation of Roderick and Sean for a capital of $100,000.
Someone to make that motion.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Full shed.
It's going to be the shed that these will park his trucks in. And ultimately, it will be the,
The one we were just talking about,
Yeah.
I think was for around $70,000, right? That's what we're talking about.
but he didn't have the base of it. But you've got this,
Right, there's gonna be one more.
there's going to be additional
There's
costs.
gonna be a
All I'm asking is, like,
And that cost was uninstalled too, so.
Yeah, okay, my real question is this, is that it doesn't apply anything to the shoring or to this
Right.
No.
makeshift outside field. It's
No.
just for
The building.
the shed that will house the trucks.
Yes,
You've already authorized the shoring.
so we did that at a prior meeting.
Right.
So let's just say for argument's sake, Roderick is able to get this in short order. He can order it, have it installed, and have TAM proceed perhaps before your next meeting.
Right. Okay. That was a good question. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to call the motion then. Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug? Aye.
Aye.
Ken? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, you got another job there, guy. Okay. And Sean, if you'll work with him on this, and make sure we got the right designs. Thank you very much.
Would you like me to stay for Solicitation and
Yes,
or?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, the next item is information and additional fire hydrants being installed in Hamiltonian Park at a strategic location. Facilitate improved water line flushing. There's a house or two there, and we just don't think we've been flushing them adequately. Information, JCO is increasing the cost of operating the town of Goshen water and sewer districts from $6,000 a month to $6,276 a month, effective December 1st, 2022. This is
That's a
the,
year from now, Doug. Is that what you want to do it, or you want to do it the 1/1,
pardon me, excuse me, that, no, it should be
January?
one. No,
Okay.
that's 21.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so this is a 1-year anniversary that for them providing their services. You can see the attached email from Ryan Reisinger dated 11/30/31 for details. And basically what it was is when Phil and I negotiated with them, annually we would look at this and see we would have to accommodate their increased costs. And so Christine charged on it with it and said, hey, and this is agreeable. This is a reasonable increase based on, the inflation for this past year. The other thing is that Phil and I will be the first to tell you, they are doing an incredible job. All this work they've been doing on the orthophosphate, putting stuff in and this and that, and they put a lot of control systems in that are working much better than what we had in the past. So anyway, that's information. It's just an ongoing cost. And a year from now, we'll see it again. Okay. Also information, the town entered into negotiation with PBA with the organization on 11/30/21 by exchanging proposed contracts. We put ours together and then the police department put theirs together. We exchanged them and we had a meeting on that. We're moving on now. So the current contract expires December 31st of this calendar year. And there are two proposed dates in January where we're going to continue on with this negotiation. Okay, the next one is a review and approve the minutes of the November 22nd, 2021 town board meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion in that regard?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? So I will call the motion. Bill?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug? Aye.
I
Ken?
wasn't present.
Okay,
so
good.
I
Okay.
understand.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're getting into the one on the demolition of Solicitation building. And Rick, I wonder if you would take us through all of these things we've got to do and make sure we do it correctly.
Sure. So previously, you adopted a resolution, a joint resolution with the Village of Goshen, which they had adopted the identical one shortly thereafter, in which pursuant to the intermunicipal agreement between the village and the town, the demolition of the Solicitation building was authorized by both municipalities. It was to be done as set forth in the resolution, funded by Fund A, monies, bonds, et cetera, that will be taxed evenly among everyone in the town of Goshen to the extent that it's not otherwise refunded by what you have monies available to go ahead and do it presently. And so now that that's authorized, now you need to go ahead and authorize the specific work to be done. That was just authorizing the project to be undertaken. And before you actually authorize the project to be undertaken, as far as the construction, et cetera, you need to review seeker. And so we have provided for you the necessary environmental assessment form, part 1, part 2, as well as a negative declaration, which would be your determination of significance under seeker that is concluding that there will be no significant adverse environmental impacts that will occur as a result of this project. So your first motion, which can combine these three things, is that you assume lead agency, type the action as unlisted, and make a determination of significance of a negative declaration.
Would someone like to make that motion?
So move.
Second.
So authorize the supervisor to sign.
Yeah, we have it there, and he can sign the SEAF, yes.
Okay, and what we can add and authorize the supervisor to sign the appropriate paperwork. Okay. Any discussion? Someone like to call the motion? I mean, I'm going to call the motion.
Say aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Doug, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you
And the
very much.
second thing is, now that seeker has been completed, is you have before you a resolution for the solicitation of bids for the Solicitation school demolition and authorizing Sean to go ahead and prepare the necessary papers to allow that bid to proceed. And that would be the resolution you have before you. Just as a note, is that this will be done pursuant to competitive public bidding. It'll be subject to the wage provisions of the state of New York, and all of that has been agreed to between the village and the town.
Right. Would someone like to make a motion regarding this resolution?
I would like to make a motion
A second.
Okay.
to,
Also,
that's okay, that we adopt the resolution authorizing the solicitation for bids for the demolition of the Solicitation school building.
Yeah.
you make a
Kenny.
motion, I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Well, the discussion I'd like to say is, first of all, I'd like to thank Phil for working months ago with Quest, and Rick, with Sean, to evaluate the building. I know what it's all about, a lot of work, a lot of work. And now here we are tonight, making the final decision to go for competitive bids and take it down.
It's a team effort.
But it's very exciting. It is very exciting. This building has been there a long time, and it's about time.
It's a watershed event for the community to be able to take that down.
But our whole village board was on board and we discussed this an awful lot. So this was a team effort.
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's ironic, one of the first issues I had to vote on after I came on the board was whether we buy the social.
That's right.
So it's ironic to hear today I'm approving that we demolished the building. Best of luck.
Okay, do we have a second? Kenny? You said-
Yes,
Okay, okay. I'm gonna call the motion then. Phil,
I,
George?
Aye.
Doug, aye. Ken?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you both.
Yeah, And, so that's, again, a lot of work,
So this is
a lot of coordination.
if he can sign that, that's it.
That's it, you got what you need?
It's up to you. Do you want me to stay for Houston Woodland Estates dedication?
Oh, yeah, let's just hang around then. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
You have nowhere to go, do you? Right.
Not at all. It's just this-
Okay. Okay. The next thing I would like to do, and this is pursuant to what Ken was just talking about, is to recognize and thank Ken Newbold for 24 years of service on the Goshen Town Board. And that's a real accomplishment. That's a long, you look much younger, I'm sure, then. And you were taller.
I still the same amount of hair though.
Yeah, well, you rub it in. Okay. So anyway, he has served our citizens well. Thank you for that.
I had something.
Please.
Community service, long before Kenny was on the board. I was on the board in the late 80s. Kenny appeared at all our meetings, participated in all our meetings. And before that, he participated in the recreation for Goshen. So this is not a 24-year thing. I have to say it's probably 36 or more, right, Kenny?
Who counted?
There's counting.
Okay, but when did you move to the community? Yeah.
Yes, so it wasn't just as a board member. He has always been a volunteer and an intricate part of this community. And I thank him too, and I know the rest of us.
That's right. Good. Okay.
I had
Thank
to
you.
write
Bill.
something. That's all right. I called my son and said, what should I say?
Yeah.
He said, well, glad you're known for talking lots, so I'll make it short. So we commenced that. And I just want to go two quick thoughts. I got emotional, but when we hear the expression rich, what do we all think about money? All my time on this board has given me more than money to buy. I've met so many wonderful people. It's been honest serving. And I just wanted two quick thoughts. When Nana taught us when we were young, that people don't enter your life by mistake. You learn from everyone that enters your life. If they're nice people, you want to be nice. Not nice, you don't want to be nice. I've been fortunate. I've been more nice people than not nice people. So I want to thank the people of Goshen. And in conclusion, because I'm very short, I just received a note from Chris Ashman, who you don't know. I know Chris for 40 years. And he thanked me for sticking to a promise I made 40 years ago. If it concerns you, it concerns me. I think I lived that time on the board. God bless Goshen. Thank you for all the members. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
I also have to thank Mrs. Joe more than Broderick.
Is she a better cook?
Well, no, for many phone calls and made Broderick feel like weird hours of the night. And Mrs. Norpie said, you just disconnect. So thank you both. Thank you, the board members, all the members over the years. It's been fun. And best of luck to the new reconstructed town board. I hope you do marvelous things for the community.
Good. The next one is to recognize, Priscilla's not here this evening. I'll certainly recognize her. She's good. But in person and thank her for 17 years of service in the assessing office as deputy clerk, our deputy town clerk, and as town clerk. And she too has served our citizens well. And when you find people that just come to work every day, and COVID and everything else, it's very nice. You can count on them. That's what we've got.
Well, I think we should give her a hand.
I'll tell her tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay, and then, and lastly, I'd like to thank the citizens of Goshen for the privilege of serving as the town supervisor for 16 years. It's truly been an honor to do so. And I'd like to go back to Dennis Kaplicki. When I first got the job, he said, well, Doug, you can probably go at least one term. Yeah, maybe two, because what you do is you make enemies over time. And so I looked at that chart over there, and for the people who are listed on there, I'm the second longest seated supervisor in the history of Goshen since 1891. Yeah, right. What I like to say is that my mother and father were good parents to me. My dad was a feed salesman. And he said, Doug, always be kind, nice, and true. It's all going to come back to you. It's just that simple. And so when you find people who are not kind and nice and true, we know who they are. They come in and talk to us from time to time. But it does cost something to be nice. Because sometimes so anyway, I can't say enough about, I grew up here in this community, and I've really enjoyed serving the community. That's a privilege.
I'd like to say a couple words, if I may.
Okay.
So Doug Bloomfield called me 16 years ago and asked me, knew that I had been on the board before and involved in the financing, whatever, deputy supervisor for 10 years. And he asked me if I would come on the board. I still haven't forgiven him. It's been 16 years.
You had it coming, guy.
But I want to say that Doug has never done anything, in my knowledge, in all of those years, that he felt was not good for Goshen. It had nothing to do with him personally. Now, I haven't always agreed with all those things, but I want to tell you, from the bottom of my heart, it came from the bottom of his heart. He has always done what he felt was the best for Goshen. So I think we should give you a great big hand.
Jumping on that.
Okay.
One thing you have to promise me is I want one of your pictures on that.
We're working on
We're
it.
working on it.
We're working on it.
Make sure
We got to
that's
get the
on
right
that-
angle.
Oh, yeah, you did it. Yeah, we got the picture.
No, so just to piggyback on what Phil said, I know everyone sure I have a lot of nice things to say. Doug and I have been around the horn a lot. Not always on the same page, that's for sure, man. But I can tell you one thing that I admire about him. He doesn't take it personally. Doesn't hold the grudge. Oh, here comes Kenny, here comes Joey, here comes Debbie. He's always willing to hear. He'll probably shake his head, but for that, I admire you, Doug. Never, ever take it personally.
Well, thank you very
Continued
much.
success.
Thank you very, very much. And I look forward to working with the board for the next 4 years.
Like to say a few things too. I guess initially getting on the board, Doug moved up from being a councilman to a supervisor, and he's always accessible. I mean, anytime that I have come in here, he makes time to sit down and speak and so on and so forth. Another thing that I think, as he has many quotes that I think we've all heard, is all of us are smarter than any one of us. He said that again to me today, and I think that's absolutely correct. That the collective head, as we would like to speak, Doug has been really great at doing that. Another thing is I mean, he took some terrible hits. I mean, the people that were here, it was all essentially over Legoland, but I mean, some of the people just outrageous against Doug, said different things to him that would make your hair stand up. It was just became so personal with some of those people, but Doug was able to get through all of those types of things. And as he said, you know, I was 7 foot tall when I came into this job, but now I'm 4 foot tall. And he's got beat up all of those times. But, you know, you really were a great leader for all of those things because there was a lot of contentious times. And, you know, when we go back, when I first got on the board in 2006, we were in deep financial trouble. I mean, deep. We didn't have money to buy a car or buy stone. It was really rough situations. And then you look fast forward now in 16 years, and I think we're kind of the pride of the state. I mean, the amount of, well, I gotta say the salt, but the amount of money that's coming into the town now, it's just incredible. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to lower taxes and also do some of the things that have to be done, because there's always things that have to be done. So I really thank you, Doug. You really did a fantastic job over these past 16 years. And I hope to be working with you now as a council member for the next 4. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Okay. New business. Let me see, though. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking for the, what are you waiting for us to do, Sean?
Woodland Estates, Houston subdivision,
Number 4.
dedication.
No,
It's
wait.
number 4 under new business.
I'm looking at my second page. Okay. Let's jump down to number 4, okay? Discuss, this is under new business. Discuss and approve a resolution to accept the Woodland Estates as Abbey Road and Betsy Court, the public access easement along Route 17A, and authorize the supervisor to sign the associated documents. Would someone like to make a motion in that regard?
Second.
Second. Rick, would you go through that?
I'll just give a very brief overview, and then I think Sean can be more particular
Okay.
with respect to this, because he's been an integral part of this.
Right.
The resolution is to accept, you know, the roadways and some strips of land in order to go ahead and allow the roadways to become public roadways, and for the town to accept the offer of dedication. And the associated documents simply go ahead and do that, and you're authorizing not just the resolution of acceptance, but the associated documents and authorizing the supervisor to sign it. There needs to be a few little minor changes as to form in some of these documents, and we will do that. Your attorneys. There is, however, one thing I want to point out. There is a typo on the second page of the resolution with respect to the amount of the maintenance bond. It says here on number 2 on the conditions on the second page of the resolution that the maintenance bond is in the amount of $7,360. The amount is actually $73,600. So it's just missing a 0 and misplaced comma. So
Hey,
that,
I'm glad you found that one.
yeah, actually, Sean picked that one up as he was looking at it tonight.
Oh, great.
So, so your resolution will be considered to be,
Oh, oh, yeah.
yes, you're right.
First, yep.
Thank you, George. Yes, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th whereas clause.
Right.
Thank you, George. So the motion to adopt this resolution will include the modification of those 2 numbers.
Okay.
And John, right, briefly, what's
History, and we'll talk about the resolution for this evening. So you'll recall several months ago, you asked us to proceed with this, you received a number of complaints. So we worked with the developer, we worked with the highway superintendent, worked with building inspector. The developer resolved all the punch list items. This is recently is the week after Thanksgiving. The punch list was completed, the easements. We worked with Rick's office on the easements. And the resolution tonight is not just for 2 roadways, but also a strip of land, 2 strips of land along Houston Road that will formalize the right-of-way. And there's also a public access easement that when this was originally approved, I believe the planning board requested, and that would allow a sidewalk in the future along 17A. There's no requirement to build the sidewalk. It's just the setting aside of land should the town ever decide to install a sidewalk in application.
Okay, thank you very much. So you can see then, this is, we're making the motion relative to this whole package here. Authorizing sign. So would someone make a motion then regarding the acceptance? Well, we'll go right back to what I have here on 94. Discuss
Sorry,
and approve
Ken.
a resolution to accept the Woodland Estates roads, Abbey and Bessie Court, public access easement along Route 17A, and authorize the supervisor to sign the associated documents. Would someone like to make a motion in that regard?
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a lot of other paperwork here, like the authentication,
That's the associated paperwork.
public access easement.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bargain sale, that's all included.
That's
That's
right.
all
All
included.
of that is included in the associated documents. Those documents will also be subject, part of your resolution should be that it's subject to the town attorney's review as the form.
Okay, I'm going to call the motion then. Bill?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You know, this is another
Folks are going to get bigger now.
That's right.
it's on another parcel. Well, while they're talking, anyway, what I'd like
Add
to
a
do
foot or
is,
two.
this is the third subdivision that we've accepted on Houston Road. And none of these were being built when we got here. Eva Estates, Creamery Estates, and Woodland Estates. And a lot of work has gone into this by Broderick and Sean and everybody, building office. And so, and it's yay, finished. And so,
Mr. Supervisor, if I could
Yeah.
add one other point,
Oh, yeah.
John just reminded me, is that upon completion of the conditions that you have in here and the signing of the documents and everything else, that's when the town will have the roads and Broderick can go ahead and start maintaining them.
that's correct.
So what we will do to make sure that it's clear as to where that line of demarcation is that Kelly and Sean will work together, getting all the documents in line, get them signed, make all the corrections necessary, and then they will notify Supervisor and Broderick in a
Okay,
letter saying that as of this date, they are town roads and shall be now forever forward be maintained by the town.
good, yeah.
Merry Christmas, bro.
Get a bigger salt shed.
So, what's the deal?
Okay. Okay, so going back to the first item of new business, information, Right Risk Management reviewed the tail claims and liabilities with management this week. Howard Bittner came and talked to us. There are currently 4 tail claims and no new claims since 2003. And I would like to congratulate all the town employees for working safely. So they're not on this list, so to speak. Okay. There was some discussion of maybe reducing this from 4 to 2 by kind of buyouts or whatever. So our attorneys are going to talk to their attorneys and see what we can do. So maybe in a month or 2 or 3, we'll come back and people would like to take a settlement so they can spend the money and it'll be less on us. Good
night, Sean.
Thank you very much, Sean. Okay, the next one is discuss and approve the purchase of workman's compensation insurance contract for the year 2022 with Comp Alliance at a cost of $119,022 and authorize the town of Goshen Insurance Commissioner, who is George, to sign the same. Now, when it comes to workman's comp, PERMA was the only other company bidding, but they were not competitive. And you can see in the Comp Alliance the breakdown. We pay this on a quarterly basis. Somewhere in this packet. That's $29,775.50 per quarter. Would someone like to make a motion then regarding this workman's compensation insurance contract for the year 2022 with Compliance at a cost of $119,022? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I just want to note that there's also state assessment. $7,077. So the true amount is the 119 plus 7,077. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is the right risk management people who are attached to these people really do a fantastic job with doing a lot of the administration. But above and beyond that, Compliance, we have received loyalty awards, or we're going to receive another one in the first quarter of 22, and they're averaging about $2,500. That comes back to us. And then the Safe Workplace Award, we got award 1 was $3,430, and Safe Workplace Award number 2 was $3,500. And then over COVID, because a lot of the DPWs and places like that weren't working, we also got a workforce reduction credit of $1,618. So they, they're a good company, and they, basically our premiums have been stabilized or have gone down. So it's a pretty good deal.
When it comes to safety, I think our employees are doing a better job than they used to. When I first got on the board, we had people get stitched up or this or that and whatever. And I think maybe it's their age. They're not 25 anymore, they're 41. And they're just thinking more about going home at the end of the day with all their pieces and parts working. Okay, so did someone second that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to call the motion then. Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug? Aye. Ken?
Aye.
Rick?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. The next one is discuss and approve a purchase of a liability insurance contract for the year 2022 with HCC, or U.S. Specialty Inc., at a cost of $116,129.56, and authorize the town of Goshen insurance commissioner to sign the same. And on this one, you can see that several companies declined to bid on it, and one quote was two quotes were very high, so we're going with the lowest bidder, which is HCC. Okay. George, you have any comments on that one at all?
No.
Okay.
Great. This kind of explains what it is.
Yep.
We're going with the lowest bid.
Right. Okay. Would someone like to make a motion then that we purchase a liability insurance contract for the year 2022 from HCC Specialty Inc. at a cost of $116,129.56.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. My paper mixed up here. Back here. Who's got a page?
I gave you my page too.
Oh, geez.
Mhm.
Oh, no, I just got to go back here. Here it is. Okay. Too much paper. The next item is, item 5 is accept and approve the resignation of police officer Anthony Pitt effective December 1st, 2021. He's moving out of the area. Would someone like to make a motion that we accept that resignation?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? I'm going to call the motion. Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Aye. Rick?
Aye.
Motion carries. And then to backfill, Mr. Pitt, review and approve the request by Chief McDowell to hire Al Vasquez as a part-time Goshen police officer effective January 3rd, 2022, at a rate to be prescribed by the PBA contract. Now, this fellow, he will be, I think, the 8th officer that we have that speaks and reads and writes Spanish. And when we were doing the reinvention of our police department, we were way ahead of other departments who have fewer people like this. I was in Middletown, the DMV. I had some business over in the police department to find out a location across the street. I came back and got in my car, and I was just sat in the seat, and all of a sudden the car moved. And I looked over, and this car was pulling out, and the bumper hit my bumper. So I got out, and I said to the lady, I said, "Ma'am, you just hit my car." She couldn't speak English, she only spoke Spanish. So I looked at the license plate and said, "Temporary plate, Texas." Gee, this is good. So there's a fellow from the DMV walked out. I'll make sure she stays here until you go across the street and get a policeman who can speak Spanish, which they had one, thank goodness. And come to find out, she had no insurance, no driver's license, so forth and so on. And then for the next 3 months, I had to work with my insurance company. They finally paid it off. So it is important today because we have many, many more Spanish-speaking people. And the poor lady was, she was in a panic. I didn't ever learn Spanish in school. So anyway, would someone like to make a motion and we hire part-time police officer Al Vasquez, who will be, first day of work will be 3rd of January 2022 at a rate of pay prescribed or in the PBA contract.
I'll make the motion. Second.
Okay. I'll call the motion then. Phil?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Doug, aye.
Aye.
Ken?
Right.
So the next stuff is just finances. And would someone like to make a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay accounts payable check run on December 9th, 2021 in the amount of $690,444.84?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is, would somebody like to make a motion to approve and authorize the supervisor to pay workman's comp claims in the amount of $21,525.25?
So, second.
Okay.
Who did it, George? Kenny?
Ken, yeah. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then there's we have a list of paperwork here. Year-to-date budget transfers as of November 22nd, 2021. And you see a list, okay, and they all come out to zero. So basically what it is, it takes money from where we've got it and puts it where we don't have it. Would someone like to make a motion regarding these budget transfers requested by the budget officer? And we approve them as presented. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. And then lastly, Christine Cavallari conducted an accounts payable audit for the November 22nd accounts payable run. And the information was perfect. So, okay. my sheet of paper again.
I'll give you 1 or 2 pages.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion then that,
We're going public hearing.
yeah, no, I'm gonna,
First.
no, yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to conduct privilege of the floor.
Sorry. Yeah.
So privilege of the floor, it's open to the floor if anybody, okay.
You might like to hear some current good heritage
Excuse
news.
me, Rick, we're gonna give you a mic, please.
But you might like to hear some good heritage news. I just got off a phone call with Dr. Mumford from Prior, Joe Vetro, the board of Heritage Goshen, and 8 easement recipients or signees necessary to clear up the easement situation. Roger and the lawyer prior were clear about why this was in their interest. I was clear about why it's in our interest. We didn't get any pushback on the call. And Roger was pushing prior to get the paperwork done quickly. And I think that it's going to happen probably within a week. So I think that's very.
That's great, that's good news. Yay.
Secondly, I think Sean already mentioned that 54 Laurel has signed their easement.
Yeah.
And now Roger is prepared to all that drainage there together. Wow, he has crew there.
Good,
doing
good,
that easement. I'm doing that drainage.
good,
So
good.
we get a lot of heritage done news, so there's some good news.
Yeah.
Very nice, very, very nice. Thank you very much. Anyone else? No, okay. Would someone like to make a motion then? We adjourn the meeting?
Oh,
sure.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. I want to thank Rick Goldman and Sean left already for all their help. I got a lot of phone calls and they helped me with the information, the proper information, so I could pass it on. And, made my job a whole lot easier. So thank you, Rick, and your staff. And I see Sean again. I'll thank him
Good.
also.
Yes, yes,
And I
indeed.
hope and pray that our planning board stays intact. I wish you guys all the best going forward in 2020.
Thank you very much.
Wish everybody a happy holiday.
Yeah,
This is it for 2021, so we'll see you next year.
yeah,
Very personal.
so, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, folks, have a,
Motion to adjourn?
oh, yeah,
Thank you.
So moved.
okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you.
Isn't this past your bedtime?